Hi everyone, this is a review from Sunday the 26th of February 2023. We had our first inaugural family day, which we'll be doing at the end of every month the rest of this year. And we started off by talking about Genesis 1 verse 27, which is God created man, male and female in his own image. And we talked a little bit about what the image of God was, that we are image bearers for God, that we don't have his physical characteristics, but it meant more that we reflect his character. He is a creator. We can create things. He has, he's makes choices. We have to make choices. We should, like we can make choices for good or for evil. God always makes the choice for good or for righteousness because that's his character, and he has made us to reflect that. So we are a moral people, a spiritual people. We've got a spirit. He's a spirit. These are all part of what it means to be in the image of God. And as I looked up in this NIV Quest Study Bible, it also means that every human being has inherent worth. Every human being is of value. In the world, that's not like that. They might pretend that they would value every person, but they don't really. They look at some people as being better than others, and they don't look at everybody as being worth the same. Otherwise, they wouldn't promote things like abortion and euthanasia and counselling people that don't agree with them on certain ideas. All right, so we're going to have a look at the next slide here. God said in Genesis chapter 2:18 that it's not good for man to be alone. So right from the start, God's placed us in families. We're meant to be in relationships. Our greatest needs are met in relationships. They're not met with your career, how much money you have, the type of car you drive, the type of home you have, or where you live. All these things, which, there's nothing wrong with any of those things, but we don't get our greatest needs met with that, because you can have all that and still be very much alone or still feel disconnected from other people. So God created marriage. Adam and Eve were the first human couple. His idea was for marriage and for family and also for community. We were meant to have community with people, friends and stuff like that. And as I was preparing for this family day, one of the things I came across was that doctors deal today, one of their biggest issues is dealing with loneliness. They're disconnected from God. Family are often separated, and I don't just mean breaking up. They might live a long way from where you live or where I live. For instance, my family came from England to live out here when I was a boy, and we were from a large family, and then it's just basically us. There's that disconnection, and that, you can feel that loneliness, and doctors are dealing with this a lot more in the world today. It's always existed, of course, but it's like it's become an epidemic now. And I believe the reason why it's become an epidemic is because we've lost connection to God, generally speaking, and families are more fractured now, or non-existent in some places, or broken. And we don't have those community or social networks so much, or at least any community or social networks that are life-building, like previous generations would have had. They would have, met together. I remember my parents' generation and people I worked with in that sort of that age, or even a little bit younger than them, saying that when they were younger, even though they weren't particularly religious, that they used to have church dances or social events that brought their whole town together or the whole city together, that there was a connecting point, and more people went to church on Sundays, as we know, than do today. And it's not just a spiritual component to worship and having a religious faith or a church family. There's also that social side of it as well, and a lot of people are missing that. They haven't got God. They haven't got a social network that's other than maybe some of them will go to the pub and get drunk or something, or get into social things that don't really meet the deeper needs of a person. But a lot of people just stay home now. They come home, they go to, or if they work at all, but even those who work, they might be single. They go home and they shut their door, and all they doing is living off the TV or other social media gadgets that sort of try to fill the gap that's where people don't exist in their lives anymore. So it's not good for men to be alone, and we're seeing more and more people alone today in one shape or another. I came across this article in a magazine called First Things. It was called The Toll of Unbelief. And in that article, they talked about a new medical term. I don't know how new it is now, but it's a term that's been coined as deaths of despair. And primarily it was to do with alcohol and drug abuse and suicides. And there's been a rapid rise in people that were dying from these type of things. This was in America, but it would be the same right across the Western world. And some of the things that they found to be partially responsible for it was the breakdown of family and the loss of religious belief. So God, family, and community are of vital importance, and that's why we this year are dedicating one Sunday every month to try and build up the family, but also and marriages, but also to build up the community and the church. I just want to go back to the first slide here. I didn't really read it out properly. We have our own church mission statement, which is love God, love others, learn about Christ, and lead others to Christ. But for a family mission statement, if you want to call it that we would be rich in faith, family, and ministry. Anyway, going back down here. Several years ago, my wife and her family and I, we used to meet on Monday nights for a family night, and we went through a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families, and all of these subjects were included in this, what you see on your screen. And so over the next several months, we're going to look at one of these per week and sort of break it down a bit and see how that applies to us as a church and as individual families. And being proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first, think win-win, seek to understand first before making yourself understood, learn to synergize, means working together, sharpen the sword, taking time to relax and, had time out. These are all what make families effective, what makes the church effective. And if we can learn these as families and as a church, these are the things that most of our culture is sort of lost now. They've lost their way because they've disconnected from God, and family is being fractured by different ideas that we have today. I just saw a headline today that very few people, percentage-wise, are even bothering to get married anymore, and how that's impacting society. So, if we want to have families that are rich in faith, and we want to have rich ministries in our church, then the Lord has to build the house. Psalm 127, 1 and 2 says that unless the Lord builds the house, we labor in vain. So is God building your home? Is God building your life? Are you allowing him to teach you? Are you doing things the way that the Bible says? Or are you listening to the world, what it says about stuff? This year, we want to make marriage and family and community a high priority, because I believe it's one of the missing dimensions, one of the key things that's missing in the Western world, in our community. And it's very important that we bring God back into the home of obviously our individual lives, but in our family and also in the church. God has to build the church. Jesus said that if I build my church, I will build my church on this rock, and the gates of hell will not be able to stand against it. Many churches aren't building on that rock anymore, at least not fully. The other thing I was trying to encourage our church with was that you might be climbing the wrong ladder. A lot of people climb the wrong ladder. They chase after riches or fame or fortune or whatever, whatever they do. And they spend more time doing those things, which at the end of the day are not so important as your family, not so important as your faith. When I was doing chaplaincy training in a hospital at Blacktown, one of the things that we touched on once was the 5 regrets of the dying, how people at the end of their life, they had certain regrets in the top 5. And one of them was not having spent enough time with family. They spent too much time working to provide for their family, but not enough time with their family. So let's strive to be families and a church community that's not going to have those regrets when we come towards the end of our life. And this is very important. Joshua 24:15. At the end of his life, Joshua told the people of Israel, choose this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Are we making that decision? Are we choosing to serve the Lord every day in our home and in our church, in our community? Because until we do, we're going to continue to have all this upheaval and make a mess of things in our personal lives and families, the community, and in the church. So choose this day. Make that choice today that you're going to serve God no matter what anyone else does or whatever happens. And we finished on this. Went back one. Sorry. I'm back here. We finished on this one. A bit of an assignment. Write out your family tree. I wonder if you've ever done that. Think about the people that are, you've got your mum and dad, you've got your brothers and sisters, maybe uncles and aunties, cousins, you got your grandparents, and then you got your great grandparents. It's about as far as I can go back with mine. But, you can write that out and then pray for those who are still alive. A great problem with our society today is we don't know who we are. We don't know we've come from God, and we don't really know who we are in ourselves. I spoke about someone in my family that didn't know their dad. The last time they saw their dad, they were 3 years of age, and he had died many years ago. But maybe 15 or so years ago, they decided to try and find out a bit more about them. And you've seen these shows on the TV. They've been around for a while now, about who do you think you are? People are trying to find out who they are. Now, my family member was trying to find out who her father was. But I think it's reflective of a deeper desire to find out who our spiritual father is. So write out your family tree, and you'll learn a little bit about who your family is and who's in your family. You might find some information. If you've got grandparents still alive, parents still alive, ask them questions so you can find out a little bit more about your ancestors. And try and find out a little bit more about yourself. But pray for the family that are still alive. Pray for those who are still around. And also talk about the memorial stones of your family, the important events. Now, sometimes those things may be a big thing. Like for me, my family came to Australia when I was 10, or it could be a tragedy, or a bad thing. Like in my case, when my parents separated when I was 14. There's not every event is a good one, but they're red letter sort of events that changed your life. But primarily, the memorial stones is those things that are positive things, like when you got married, 21st birthdays, or like different events, engagements, anniversaries, special places you went with your family for a holiday when you were younger, or even now. What are the important things in your family? Talk about them this week. Start to build your family up, because no matter what else you've got, and I've heard this happen, that there are people that they've got the good intentions. They want the best for their family, so they work hard, do double shifts, and then one day they come home and find their family's not there, because they've been neglecting them without even really realizing it. They've been climbing that ladder, up the wrong wall, the tree of success, and they may have obtained all them things and finally get to where they want to enjoy their family now, and it's too late. We don't want that to happen to us. Or even if that doesn't happen, another case that I spoke about on Sunday was where a man belonged to a successful Christian ministry and he was well liked and he'd done a lot of good things for God. And at the end of his time, when he was retiring from the organization, they put up a lot of photos showing his family and his achievements. And as he was sitting there, he realized that most of the family big events, memorial stones, birthdays, and even some holidays and things like that, he wasn't in the photos. And he realized it's because he wasn't there. He was off chasing this ministry round. He forgot that you've got to put your family in their right place, and even ministry shouldn't be more important than what you're doing with your loved ones. So I just want to encourage you. Hope you have a great day, and that you think about this a bit more. And God bless you. And let's build our families up in this year ahead. God bless.